Hey everybody, John Malanca here with my co-host Natasha Trenev, the mother of probiotics and the founder of Natren Precision Probiotics. How are you doing, Natasha?
I'm fabulous. Thank you, John.
Good to see you, and thank you to our audience again for not only being supportive, but also being interactive with us, submitting your questions as well as your comments. And this next topic today is the probiotic puzzle, what really counts. And it hit me the other night. I was in a Whole Foods type of store. I'll leave it at that, where I went in there and I wanted to see what probiotics they had. And I asked the woman who was running the aisle, what would you recommend? What's the best probiotic? And they went in there and they pointed to something else. And I said, what about that product? And I'm talking about Natasha's Healthy Trinity. And she says, oh no, that one only has 3 ingredients. And it kind of blew me away in a shocking way, like, oh my gosh. And so I said to her, I started sharing, not telling my connection with, sharing my connection with Natasha, but talking about the product. And so I came back to Natasha and I called her the next day. I'm like, this is pretty shocking that that's the mindset of this. And so, and then we received your comment. Why someone wrote in about the ingredients. So I said, what a perfect topic. So Natasha, take it away on that one. Can you share why? What these 3, how important these 3 ingredients are first off?
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to give a little bit of history. I've been in this industry 56 years. I set the yogurt standard in the state of California in 1969 and introduced kefir to America through Altadena Dairy, and then helped to set the kefir standard in New York in the late 1970s, and then was asked by the entire industry to write the first standard of any kind for a dietary supplement product in 1989. And my probiotic labeling standard was read into congressional record later in 1995. So I know what I'm talking about. And the reason I'm very careful which bacteria I use, because A, I want bacteria that are safe at any level. 2, that have appeared in the literature for at least 100 years, and that I know will not only help the host with digestion, absorption, immunity, beautiful skin, but will also stimulate the growth of other bacteria in the intestinal tract at a controlled rate to make sure that the host is always the one that benefits. So the reason I only choose 3 is because Lactobacillus acidophilus has more than 10,000 articles written about it, clinical trials for over 40, 50 years. And in fact, in the health food industry, before the 1990s, the only thing people would buy is acidophilus. They would not buy any bacterial product that was not acidophilus. In fact, that's why the GG strain had to be introduced into Finland, because American market refused to accept it. So having said that, now I also introduced bifidobacteria, which love to live in your large intestine or your colon. So I chose the one that was published in German journals and had phenomenal success. And I went to the German, what they call culture bank, and got my first, bifidobacteria introduced into the United States. So, and then because I was considered an expert in yogurt, the longevity bacteria, which is one of the bacteria in the starter cultures of yogurt called Lactobacillus bulgaricus, was talked about for over 100 years and was attributed to contributing to longevity in Bulgaria. So here are the 3 strains that have this phenomenal history, that have this phenomenal performance. And then I put them in an oil matrix so the bacteria don't touch each other. Because what the mistake most people do, they think that because bacteria are so simple, they're stupid, they're much smarter than us. So all these manufacturers that throw in all these bacteria and you say you're getting all these ingredients, number one, not one of them guarantees each bacteria to the printed expiration date. And the reason they do that is because they make these mixes, because when they mix up all these bacteria without knowing if they're compatible or synergistic or symbiotic, they don't know any of that. They just throw them in together. And because the consumer is ignorant, it looks good to them because they list all of these bacteria on the label. But in testing these products, well, I sat in a standards committee for 10 years in the late 1990s, early 2000s. we found that some of these people didn't have the ingredients they claimed on their label. That was shocking. And you have to do like a DNA test to determine, once you mix all these bacteria together, if they're there. Second of all, they're going to not like each other. They're going to wipe each other out, and they're not going to be helping each other survive. So what's happening is that they may be alive and they may be dead because they've been knocked out by some other bacteria that they're forced to live with. Excuse me. And so you have a completely a problem with the product, that you don't know which bacteria you're getting. You don't know which bacteria you're getting at what dosage or what potency. So you have no idea what's working from day to day. And most of these bacteria, I can tell you from my more than 50 years of experience, may be alive, or probably they're dead. But if they're alive, they're not very active. And that's why for thousands of times I have heard, how come I took product XYZ and I did not get the results I got from your product? So that's the difference. If you want to get real results, you have to have a product that's made with the bacteria that evolved with Homo sapiens. They're taken care of. They're scientifically manufactured, stored, and shipped to make sure that they're not only alive, but they're active.
You talk about the three major ingredients you have in your capsules in the Healthy Trinity. The topic comes up too about this. It's why is it encapsulated in sunflower oil, a seed oil, and I went and visited a friend, and I know his wife very well, and she loves this type of stuff. So when I came in, I brought a welcome gift, and she's John, you're speaking my language, thank you. And she was excited, and then she asked me, "There's sunflower oil in here," and I said, let me ask Natasha. So I'm back to not asking Siri or Alexa. I'm asking Natasha. And I said, Natasha, what was the story? Because you're getting people talking about the sunflower oil, the seed oil. And your response was right on about how sunflower oil, I guess, is what the bacteria like. Can you talk about that and why that works?
Yeah. Well, first of all, in our industry, and again, I'm going to reiterate, I've been here in the industry for 56 years. We get tied up on these, tirades. We're into soybeans, into soy milk, and then all of a sudden, boom, somebody says something, and all of a sudden we stop doing all of that. First of all, I went through multiple oils to figure out what the bacteria like to stay in a rested state of growth. I didn't choose this for the human being. I chose it for the bacteria. And there's so little in there. There's less than 1 gram. I mean, people get crazy about these things. This oil is in there at a certain percentage so that the bacteria will like that they're microenrobed. Remember, they're covered with this oil. And unfortunately for me, they did not like olive oil that much. And so I had to go with an oil. We went through at least 6 or 7 oils before we found this. And my former technical director had a PhD in oils, and we did deep dives into trying to figure out. And remember, the first thing you have to do is take care of your active product. I think what we do in our industry, we look at the nose, what the product doesn't have, but we don't focus on what the product really has and what it's supposed to do for you. Because I guess the technical knowledge of what a product, especially a bacteria product like a probiotic, is supposed to do for you is difficult for people. So they look for these little things that really don't matter if you understand the whole process and you understand who's actually formulating, manufacturing, and selling you the product. And that's what I want to say, that most people do not understand. And the reason they don't understand is because now there's a focus on seed oils. But I can tell you that in Eastern Europe, especially sunflower oil is used in the Balkans during what we call spring and summer. In the fall, they use lard, and people used to go, oh my God, they eat lard. But I can just tell you, those people were very healthy. They had cold pressed sunflower oil in the former Yugoslavia, in Hungary, in Romania, in Bulgaria. That's an oil that they use. So I think in the United States, we get a little bit of information, we freeze it, and then we expand it, and that becomes the truth. And it's not necessarily the truth, because you have to look at the cultures that use these products and how they fared with using these products.
Thank you for that. Can you, actually, we have a label. Can you show a couple of labels, what to look, the bad as well as versus the good?
Okay, so since I was on the standards committee for 10 years and my labeling standard was read into congressional record, and by the way, voted on by 5,000 members of the National Nutritional Association in 1989. So this is unfair to the consumer, because look at all these organisms they list on the label, but they only give you a total potency. Now, you don't know when you read all these ingredients. First of all, I would say 99% of the people don't even know what these organisms are. They just heard something good about them. And then they don't even know how much of each organism they're getting at the time they consume the product. They may have a total potency. They may group these bacteria in groups and give you a potency, but none of the labels that I have seen specifically list the potency of each bacteria like we do through an expiry date. And by the way, we have 40 years of testing to prove what we say on our label. These people are just buying from a contract manufacturer. I would say 99% of the products made buy from a contract manufacturer. And they just list all these ingredients, and then the government doesn't force them to substantiate that they actually have these bacteria in the product and that they are actually compatible. I can just tell you, looking at this label, there are at least a half a dozen bacteria that are not compatible with each other, and they're going to knock each other out. So you have no idea what you're getting. And then what some of these people do, they list the ingredients in milligrams. Now, bacteria are only counted by colony forming units. You don't care how much that weighs. You care how many units of living bacteria you have there that can reproduce and multiply in your intestinal tract. So milligrams is technically an illegal listing of an ingredient statement that has bacteria. It's like having a quart of milk and giving the weight in pounds. You have no idea, what that liquid measure is, because somebody's telling you you have now a quart of milk in pounds. This is what they're doing here. And it should be illegal, and these things should be removed. But unfortunately, our government doesn't do that unless somebody actually dies and that there's a reported death. Then the government starts looking into the packaging, the label, and which batch caused the problem. And unfortunately for all of us, our dietary supplement industry was supposed to start regulating itself in the 1990s by something called True Label. And the membership pulled out of the National Nutritional Foods Association because they refused to submit the True Label, and they found silly excuses why they didn't want to do it. And it was probably the most fair program that I have ever seen. And by the way, we promised Congress we were going to regulate ourselves, and we didn't. So please, just take it from me. The reason I'm still staying at my age in this industry is to make sure that this most important supplement, which is the beneficial bacteria, we have a nation that is crumbling because of our health care crisis. We have 80% of our people using $4.3 trillion of healthcare that's keeping them chronically ill. We have 60% of our children chronically ill. It is a national crisis. And the reason we're not getting better is because these natural foods were supposed to provide an alternative. And when I started in the industry, every person who sold a product was an expert in that field. And they stuck to their own, little SKUs. They didn't go and say, oh, in order to grow, we have to make 50 SKUs. We have to have 100. Why 100? Let's go for 200. And they don't have even one product manager for 50 of the SKUs that they sell. So I think as a nation, if we want to get healthy, yes, I firmly believe that the true probiotic is the foundation of your health. And if you don't understand what you're paying for, and you think somebody knows how to make it better and cheaper, you're fooling yourself, because bacteria will not stupid, and they will not perform for you because you have a sales and marketing plan.
Yeah. And I believe we have one slide too, showing, I just want to do a side-by-side comparison of what your labels look like.
Right. So first of all, you can see that I clearly state the potency guarantee of each bacteria on my label. Like it says here, 5 billion Lactobacillus acidophilus, 5 billion Lactobacillus bulgaricus, 20 billion of the bifidobacteria bifidum. And it's clearly stated. And then you get the total count along with those individual potency guarantees. You get the total counts. And so what do? We give you the proper storage conditions. We list it on the label. Then we tell you the colony forming units, which is the amount of live, excuse me, healthy bacteria you have in the product. That's very important. And then if we can scroll up, please, Ashley. Oh, here we go. Thank you. So proper identification of the probiotic bacteria. So all of them should be listed on the label and identified a minimum by the genes and species, like Lactobacillus acidophilus. And then we give it this strain name. For us, it's the NAS strain. So that's required. In other words, it's a full identification of a living bacteria that you're ingesting for your health. You have to know what you're intaking, because you're not just taking an ingredient, you're taking a living entity that's smart and you need to know exactly what you're putting in your body. So the manufacturer information is very important on the label. The laboratory data defining the specifications, the URL, all of those things are part of the required label identifications that must go on a label if it is a legal label. And I find that very few labels are legal these days.
Yeah, you're someone who really does everything by the book. And I've had this discussion with you on what to say, what you can't, and you're like, nope, I have to follow this. And I appreciate the product that you put out and the quality and how serious you take this of what you put out. Your name, your face, your brand, and your reputation are all behind your label and your product.
Yeah.
I share with families and friends and people that about your product all the time. And the FDA show up at your door like Halloween trick-or-treaters, unannounced. Knock, knock, knock. We're coming in. And you have to let them in. And the one thing that's a pretty proud result of their unannounced visit, is they always walk away with great job, Natasha. And I think the most recent hand slap that you received was someone wrote in of sharing their results of taking your product. And that's what the FDA said, you got to take that review down. But it was a truth. But it just shows you what your facility is like. You have a 30,000 square foot facility. So everything manufactured here in the United States and locally. And all the products and all the ingredients that you handpick and make sure that it is quality. So, Natasha, you're a wealth of information. Proud to know you. Proud to take your products even before I knew you, and I continue doing it. So I depend my health on all your products, and I know there's a whole product line, and I probably overdo it, but that's just me. But I thank you, Natasha, and thank you to our audience members who asked that question. There's only 3 ingredients in here. What makes you guys stand out? And so you heard it from Natasha, wealth of information.
I just wanted to add something about Whole Foods. I was a friend with Sandy Gooch in the 1980s when she started Mrs. Gooch's. And I was there when the original stores were sold to Whole Foods. Actually, Whole Foods used to be a sub-distributor out of Austin, Texas for all of us. And I can just tell you that until Amazon bought Whole Foods, virtually 70 to 80% of the managers in every Whole Foods across the country recommended Natren, not because I paid them, because they took the product themselves and knew what the product was doing. And they would walk over to the shelf, not the newbies now, and they would say, this is the product I take, this is the product I recommend. And it's a tragedy that when the chain was bought, within 24 hours, the most knowledgeable and respected people in that chain were fired and told to have a nice life. So this is a real problem in our industry because we don't have that dedication, that knowledge, and that passion to make sure that they sell a product that actually works to the people that come into the store.
A pay to play. And that's and that's disappointing to hear. Is it the best product, or did they pay to put that? And unfortunately, that's how not only in your sector, but a lot of sectors is these days. So, but keep on doing what you're doing, Natasha, and we'll help get the word out. And health is important, and Healthy Trinity is my choice as well. So, Natasha, have a blessed day. Always a pleasure working with you and seeing you and talking shop with you. We'll see you on next week's show. My name is John Malanca with my co-host Natasha Trenev, the mother of probiotics. Have a great day.
And know what you're buying.
Know what you're buying. The Probiotic Puzzle. What really counts.